Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to establish this beautiful rose quartz look on your tumblers with just some quick and easy hand painting techniques. We're going to base paint our tumbler with some candy pink spray paint from Rust-Oleum and wait until that's dry to the touch. Mine took about 20 to 30 minutes. Then I'm going to spray paint some Rust-Oleum rustic pink spray paint onto a sheet of parchment paper or a paper plate, whatever you have. And using a piece of sea sponge, I got these on Amazon, you just rip off a piece. We're going to sponge paint in some random bits of color with this darker kind of tannish beige pink. If you look at real rose quartz, you're going to have a variation of color from very light rose all the way up to this sort of beige, deeper rose color. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. You really want to have some organic kind of lines to your painting, so don't overthink it. And after we've gone around the whole cup with this color, I'm going to spray paint in some of the candy pink onto the same sheet of parchment paper, and using the same sponge while everything's still a little wet, we're going to sponge paint in some more of that candy pink just to soften the lines on that darker pink color and kind of correct some of the spots that we might have missed when we base painted the cup. Once I'm done with my sponge painting, I'm going to let this sit to dry for about 20 or 15 minutes or so, again until it's dry to the touch. Next, we're going to take some white acrylic paint and pour a little bit of it into our medicine cup, and I'm going to add a few drops of this gloss pouring medium. This is going to water down our paint without losing any of the pigment. Using our fine liner brush, we're going to vein in some of our lines, rolling the brush back and forth in my fingertips as I roll it along the cup with very light pressure. One mistake I see with these cups is the lines are too harsh or they're too straight. It helps if your hand's a little bit shaky, so if you want to do this after your morning cup of coffee or something, that's very helpful. You just don't want the lines to be harsh. Immediately after painting in that line, you want to take your finger and just kind of pat along some of the parts of that line. Not the whole line, you do want to leave some of those lines intact. It's also important to pay attention to the direction that your lines are going in. Some of the lines will go in opposite directions, almost crisscrossed. Some of them will almost be straight. I have a really big chunk of rose quartz that a friend of mine gave to me years ago, and I used that as a reference when creating this tumbler. It was very helpful. This is, of course, very similar to the tutorial that I did a couple weeks ago, but I think this is a much more approachable technique in that you're not having to deal with the nuances of controlling the lines of the alcohol ink. Once we've done enough of the white paint all the way around our cup, I want to add in some gold accents. So I have this gold paint marker. I will link it down below. And I am just going to pump the tip of that marker into a medicine cup until I have a little puddle of paint. You could also use gold foil paint, but I didn't have any of that, and this worked just as well. Using our same fine liner brush, we're just going to very delicately add in some of these fine gold vein details. This, of course, is optional, and I don't really think that it's necessary to achieve the same look as a realistic rose quartz, but I still think it's a beautiful detail. I place these lines randomly all the way around my cup, again paying attention to an organic rhythm on the frequency of the lines and the positioning. I kind of wanted them to be in line with the existing white lines of the cup that we did earlier with the white paint. Here's a close-up. Again, you guys can see that I actually roll the brush back and forth in my fingertips, trying to shake it just a little bit to get that really kind of natural looking vein. Now it's time to add some shimmer. I'm using Wicked Shimmer adhesive today. I used this a couple times in my tutorials recently, and I really like it. I've just got a good amount of it in a medicine cup, probably about 5 milliliters, and I'm going to add in some scoops of Maestra Magic, I think it's called. It's her like diamond dust or crystal, I don't know, crystal magic. I don't it's called, but I'll link it in the description box. And you just want to add enough of this until the shimmer is visible when you kind of wipe your doe foot applicator along the side of the cup. That's how you can tell if you have enough shimmers, if you can see it through that adhesive. And this adhesive is going to act as a carrier medium for that shimmer without making too much of a mess, so we can get some really detailed sections of that shimmery look. Using that doe foot applicator, I'm just going to kind of scribble it along in certain sections wherever I want to add some kind of interest. And once this dries, which will be really quick, it'll dry completely clear, and all that will be left over is that shimmery dust. If you want to go over those sections with your finger just to kind of rub it in and kind of messy up the edges of those sections, if that makes sense. And as soon as this is completely dry, which will be really quick, we are ready to move on to our first coat of epoxy. You do not have to seal this. You don't have to seal that paint marker either. It's just ready to go as soon as it's dry. At this point, we should have something that looks like this. And I'm going to epoxy this with about 20 milliliters of epoxy. Of course, the amount that you'll want to use for your first coat will vary based on the size of tumbler. I'm just using my regular Flynn Sisters Premium Epoxy Artist Cure formula. And I'm going to epoxy it like I normally would. Once I've got the epoxy spread on there nice and smooth, I'm just going to hit it really quick with my torch to pop any bubbles. And I'm going to let this dry for about 8 to 10 hours before we move on to the next step. Now that my epoxy is dry, I'm ready to do my sanding routine. This is the same sanding routine you guys see me do in all of my videos. We're going to sand down a fine line of stainless steel up here along the top rim. This is where our final coats of epoxy will adhere to create the final seal for our tumbler on the outer rim rather than the very top rim where it's more vulnerable. Once I'm done with my sanding, I'm just going to clean this up with some paper towel and rubbing alcohol. And now we're ready to move on to our final coats of epoxy, but not before I put my signature at the bottom of this cup because I was so proud of it. I absolutely love how it turned out. I'm using the same gold marker that I used for that veining earlier to sign the bottom. Again, this does not have to be sealed. As soon as it's dry, we're ready to move on to our final coats of epoxy. This cup took one final coat before it was completely smooth, super easy to do. I just love this technique because you can get such a realistic rose quartz look with very little effort. Again, I had mentioned this earlier in the video that I feel like this is a much more approachable technique for realistic stonework. Imagine this in like a travertine color or even jade. I just love it, obviously, because I've done 2 tutorials like this twice in a row. I promise next week we'll be doing something different. But I hope you guys loved this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And if you liked it, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I upload new videos every week. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. And a big thank you to all of our Flynn Sisters exclusive members. Thank you for your pledge. Your support means the world to our channel. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.